Now, stop me if this sounds familiar. We have a group of superheroes, and then we have a supervillain with a giant weapon that's going to destroy an entire planet.
Oh, will you shut up about that?
On the surface, Guardians of the Galaxy was quite possibly one of the most bizarre concepts for a blockbuster ever. A movie based on a comic book that no one had ever read, starring a bunch of superheroes that no one had ever heard of. It didn't exactly scream mainstream success. But somehow, this story about a ragtag group of scoundrels, including a smack-talking raccoon, a walking monosyllabic tree, and an earthling obsessed with obscure 70s pop music, would end up being one of the most popular and financially successful entries in the entire MCU.
I ain't about to be brought down by a tree and a talking raccoon.
The possibility of a Guardians movie was announced as far back as 2010, when Kevin Feige suggested the possibility of adapting the obscure comic book for the big screen, eventually greenlighting the project in 2012 following the success of the Avengers. Nicole Perlman, who was enrolled in Marvel's screenwriting program, was given a selection of lesser-known Marvel characters to write a movie about, settling on the Guardians due to her interest in space and science fiction. I guess they saw the first attempt at Howard the Duck and were like, nah, we'll give him 10 seconds at the end, but that's about it. And they cast Seth Green, which now means he has officially been in more MCU movies than Edward Norton and Terrence Howard.
Shut up!
James Gunn was then selected to direct and contribute to the script, but upon reading it decided that it needed to be rewritten from scratch as he felt it was too messy. However, due to WGA rules, Perlman was still credited as co-writer. The original draft involved a very different story and character arcs, particularly in regard to Star-Lord. His iconic Walkman, which somehow lasts 26 years, seriously, did you ever own one? I'd be lucky if mine lasted a month. And where the hell is he getting the batteries for it?
You're an imbecile.
But this wasn't included, and his backstory would have involved being the son of a space emperor, just as it was in the comic books. Joss Whedon, a personal friend of Gunn's who worked on the movie as a consultant, advised him to ditch this concept, encouraging Gunn to make the movie as weird as possible, because Lord knows Joss Whedon is certainly the king of being fucking weird.
That's not what I'm saying.
Gunn was also apprehensive about including Thanos in the movie, but Whedon reminded him that he was in an end credit scene 4 movies ago and still hasn't appeared, and he managed to eventually persuade him that he needed to establish Thanos to the audience before he became more important to the wider Marvel universe.
That was a pretty good plan.
When casting the role of Star-Lord, an absurdly long list of actors auditioned for the part, including Joel Edgerton, Jack Houston, Jim Sturgis, Eddie Redmayne, Jensen Ackles, Jared Padalecki, Zachary Levi, Wes Bentley, Thomas the Tank Engine, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Sullivan Stapleton, Cam Gigante, Logan Marshall Green, Bob the Builder, Garrett Hedlund, Aaron Paul, Andy Pandy, John Krasinski, Glenn Howerton, Fireman Sam, John Gallagher Jr. and Michael Rosenbaum. Lee Pace also auditioned, but Gunn decided that he would be better suited as a villain, offering him the part of Ronan.
Sounds fair.
Chris Pratt was then offered the lead, but Gunn originally vetoed this, as Pratt was mainly known for his comedic role on Parks and Recreation and didn't think he would make a convincing action hero. Pratt himself actually turned it down at first, having given up on his ambition to be a leading action star after failed auditions for Star Trek and Avatar.
Blah, blah, blah. We're all very fascinated, Whitey.
Eventually, a meeting was set up between Gunn and Pratt, and the pair got on so well that Gunn offered him the role on the spot, along with a multi-film deal with Marvel, even joking that he would still get the role if he didn't get into shape in time. Once he got the part, Pratt went on a strict diet and training regimen, managing to lose 60 pounds in 6 months.
What? Holy shit.
Zoe Saldana was sought out for the part of Gamora, but she only agreed to the part if she could play the character through makeup rather than CGI performance capture. Man, James Cameron really did a number on her, didn't he?
But hey, that's not my problem.
Dave Bautista was the only actor that Gunn considered for Drax the Destroyer, and when he found out he had the role, he broke down crying, overjoyed at the chance to act in a Hollywood blockbuster. He then promptly left his position at the WWE and hired an acting coach to help him prepare for the part.
I quit. You're gonna run back to Hollywood when your movie craps out there. Don't come running back to me, cause you're finished. You're nothing without me. This place is nothing without me!
Filming ran from July to October 2013 at Shepperton Studios in London, and Guardians of the Galaxy was released on August the 1st the next year. Despite fears that the movie would underperform due to the obscure nature of the characters, Marvel continued to prove that they could make gold out of fly shit, with the film raking in an insane $773 million worldwide.
Asleep for the danger, awake for the money, as per frickin' usual.
Critical reception was also very positive, praising the performances, screenplay, action and visuals, and the film's success encouraged Marvel to make more movies based on their lesser known characters. So if you ever wonder why we get a Squirrel Girl movie 10 years down the line, you have this movie to thank for it.
not helping!
The movie follows Peter, later played by Chris Pratt, whose mother dies of cancer in a wonderful opening scene. I just long for a superhero origin story where the Guardian doesn't kick the bucket!
When Thanos took my home world, he killed my parents in front of me.
See, they're everywhere! The kid is actually an insane actor, and it's certainly a damn powerful opening scene. Before his granddad just leaves him alone after witnessing his mother dying, what a nice guy. And then, out of nowhere, young Peter suddenly goes outside, sees something in the sky, and gets abducted by aliens. Oh, that old cliche.
Oh, crap.
Chris Pratt is pretty great in the part. He acts like a cringy dad who dances around to old music, and yet he kind of makes it work. He's so desperate to be a badass, but nobody actually takes him seriously, and it's evident he's just a wannabe, which is really funny.
I picked this guy up a while back for petty theft. He's got a code name.
Come on, man. It's an outlaw name.
Although at times he does have some pretty cool moments. He switches back and forth between badass and loser really well. He's just incredibly entertaining. I can't think of many people who could interrupt a huge strong climax scene by dancing and have it still be fun to watch, even if his grammar is terrible.
I could care less whether you live or whether you die.
And he talks about cum in a Disney film.
If I had a black light, the place would look like a Jackson Pollock painting.
But I guess Stan Lee lost a bet or something, considering he's just a pervert in this one. Speaking of perverts, Thanos' daughter Gamora is smoking hot. Watching her and Chris Pratt fight is like porn! She doesn't have much to her character though.
I'm no family to Ronan or Thanos.
Yeah, but let's face it, you're not exactly Thor either, are you, love? In fact, now that I think about it, isn't her character just Thor? Creature from another world who wants to distance themselves from their parents and prove that they're worthy? It's the same character!
Now forget this.
We meet Rocket Raccoon, voiced by Bradley Cooper, but he just really reminds me of Timon from The Lion King. That's not a bad thing, he does have some really funny lines.
Here you go.
Oh, I was just kidding about the leg. I just need these two things.
What?
No, I thought it'd be funny. Was it funny? No, wait, what did he look like hopping around?
You also get a giant invincible tree called Groot, voiced by Vin Diesel, and by voiced I mean he only ever says one thing.
I am...
Well, that's just as fascinating as the first 89 times you told me that.
And the sad thing is, Vin Diesel was probably paid millions just for saying the exact same 3 words over and over again. It is hilarious how they're discussing this huge plan to escape prison, but as they talk, Groot is in the background just doing it himself. It's a pretty clever and funny way to get it done in a short amount of time. The characters are all so much fun and so entertaining to watch. They bounce off of one another really well and do genuinely have some great chemistry.
You! Man who has lain with the Lascavarian!
It was one time, man.
But the star of the show is definitely Drax. He is hilarious. Anytime he is on screen, he steals the show.
He's coming back for her. And when he does, that's when you...
Why would I put my finger on his throat?
Metaphors are gonna go over his head.
Nothing goes over my head. My reflexes are too fast. I would catch it.
We've already established that you destroying the ship that I'm on is not saving me.
When did we establish?
Like 3 seconds ago!
I wasn't listening. I was thinking of something else. Ronan murdered my wife, Ovette. And my daughter, Camaria. He slaughtered them where they stood.
And you know what Scott did?
He laughed!
But he also is a badass.
Finger to the throat means death. Metaphor.
You can tell he's having the time of his life. He's like a kid at Disneyland. He is having a blast. Considering he has no acting background, I do think Batista does a great job in this. Granted, John Cena isn't really a tough act to follow in Hollywood, but still.
I don't recall killing your family.
And I waited until right at the end after I've already beat you to a bloody pulp to tell you this for some reason. Oh, and Rocket shits on Drax's entire motivation.
Everybody's got dead people. It's no excuse to get everybody else dead along the way.
Sad thing is, he kind of has a point.
We're wanted by the Nova Corps. Just give it to Ronan.
So he can destroy the galaxy?
What are you, some saint all of a sudden? What has the galaxy ever done for you?
The aqueduct?
The movie is just a whole lot of fun. Some of the space battle scenes are quite repetitive from any space movie we've seen ever, but the characters make it more charming and memorable. It's Star Wars, but with superheroes. Although if this was Star Wars, she'd be able to just fly straight back inside completely unscathed. But not only do they rip off every sci-fi movie ever made, they also decide to dip their hand into Austin Powers as well.
The high-end community is...
Alright, Zippet.
You can't even
zip it.
The high-end community is...
Look, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, Exhibit A.
It's a tight-knit...
Number 2, would you please back me up?
Look, I'm Zippy Longstockings.
Tight-knit...
I can't. When a problem comes along, you must zip it.
But that's okay, because they've just arrived at the very place DC are heading.
It's called Nowhere.
But you can't escape the fact it's just another film with the same plot. Heroes, villain, big weapon, end the world. I mean, you can't argue with numbers, I guess. People are gonna go see it anyway, so why stop? But we're not even halfway through this franchise and they've done this story how many times? The characters' bonding does feel genuinely natural. It doesn't come across as forced at all. You do really feel like they grow to love and trust one another throughout the entire film. There's this scene where Gamora is floating in space and I guess temporarily dies, but we get another Jack Rose situation.
Get back into your pod! You can't fit 2 people in there, you're gonna die!
Look at it! How are 2 people not able to fit inside? He then takes his mask off to give it to her instead of just keeping it on and then taking her inside. There is clearly enough room.
And you will destroy Xandar for me.
You know, anytime they mention destroying Xandar, I just keep thinking they're trying to kill Nicholas Brandon. Good. There are a lot of scenes where I just can't get into Yondu and I don't really care for him, but I must admit, this one is pretty badass, I can't lie. Originally he was supposed to be killed off at the end of the film, but Gunn decided to change this at the last minute as he loved working with Michael Rooker so much.
Thanks.
Of course, we have to endure the long section pretending that Groot is dead. Yeah, I'm pretty sure blindfolded Stevie Wonder saw this coming, but it is still pretty sad when he dies. It does have heart as Gamora asks for Peter's hand and he remembers when his mother did the same and he didn't take it. It's pretty heartwarming until it becomes kick-ass!
You said it yourself, bitch. We're the Guardians of the Galaxy.
The film is pretty good. I'd bump it up to great if the story was a bit more original. It's just the Avengers but in space. But don't get me wrong, the characters are a lot of fun and they're what makes the film work. It's definitely worth a watch, but it's not their most creative effort. I will always love you.